Alrighty guys, just on the quick video, I want to talk about the e-safety children digital IDs that are being implemented in Australia to save their children from all the bad people on the internet. However, every single Australian is going to have to sign up and register. You're going to have to do a full ID check, register your your internet connection and all that sort of stuff, all your accounts with your personal details. Let's jump straight in. Apparently this has helped the kids though.
But first, every single Australian, young and old, is very soon quite possibly going to be forced to choose between freedom and slavery. That might sound extreme or even hyperbole, as we say on Outsiders, but it is nonetheless the truth. The authoritarian forces within the government, both Labor and Coalition, have empowered the
Who gave this chick? So they're calling her Karen, and she's the one who's come up with this whole thing, or who is maybe not come up with it, but she's definitely the spokesperson and the face of it, to control the internet here in Australia. I wish it just came out of nowhere. I want to talk about my thoughts on it and where I think the future of all this will go. Because I know there's people that are saying, oh, who cares? What have you got to hide? If you've got nothing to hide, if you're not doing the wrong thing, or you're not doing anything untoward, then who cares what you're looking at? No one cares about you. You know, you're not Julian Assange or anything. No one's going to be looking at you on a database and seeing where you're going and what you're doing. Okay, fine. I understand that some people see the resistance to this sort of thing as strange. It's more of a bigger picture. It's more of about, this is a framework, okay? This is the start. This is the building blocks of being tracked by the government for everything you do. You cannot operate. You could barely operate. Yes, you could. But you could barely operate. It'd be very difficult to operate, especially if you're someone who needs the internet for work and all that sort of thing, which is a lot of people, without using technology. Everything is entwined in technology in 2025. So that's what it is. It is getting control. It is getting you signed up, first name, last name, address, tax file number, whatever it may be. So you can be tracked and pegged very easily for what you're doing. And I truly believe at some point in the future, it'll be like a social credit scoring system, similar to what they have in China, like a full digital ID stuff. I think more people should be concerned and annoyed about this sort of thing. Who are these people to come and say that we need censorship across technology? Under the guise, why it is such a load of BS and why people are accepting it? It's for the kids. It's for the kids. Well, if it's for the kids, they should develop other technology which detects how old that child is. Surely it can be done, and they get auto-blocked. Or maybe it's the kids who have to sign up and prove. And sure, there'll be ways around that, potentially, but I'm sure they'll develop a system in time where all those loopholes are closed. But no. Every single person, man, woman and child, is going to have to do it. I just think it's a complete invasion of privacy at the very least, and something more sinister at the very worst long term.
Safety Commissioner Julie Inman Grant to begin implementing digital censorship into this country. Once imposed, it will be impossible to ever break free of the shackles which almost inevitably will tighten like a python squeeze around our liberties. Clive James once said the problem with Australians isn't that we are descended from convicts, but that we are descended from prison officers. And that is the great dilemma that lies at the heart of the Australian character.
Yeah, look at the government that everyone has voted in. You may as well have a hammer and a sickle on the flag. We're living in full-blown communism. Come to Victoria, it's basically that's what we're living in. That's why people are okay with it. Are you okay with big daddy government having control over everything? Even think about the lockdowns and how happy people were about it. And Dan Andrews, he's doing the right thing by us, and we stand by Dan. And think about how stupid the population is because they made a song, Get on the Beers with Dan Andrews mix, and that became popular. People were like, yeah, I like Dan Andrews because he said get on the beers. Yeah, Dan Andrews, yeah. Goes to show you, most people don't think. Don't want the government to tell them how to operate their lives.
American instinct versus the authoritarian instinct. We saw the larrikin instinct in both world wars, where our diggers fought to free the West from fascism and tyranny. And we saw the larrikin spirit make Australian entrepreneurship and creativity and music and comic genius the envy of the world throughout the 60s, 70s and 80s. That was the time, of course, when even the mere mention of an Australian identity card had Aussies up in arms, and rightly so. But since those golden days, we've become more and more authoritarian, as political correctness poisoned public discourse and entertainment, culminating in the horror show that was the Australian response to COVID, where our leaders merrily trashed all our individual freedoms and God-given rights.
And everyone ratted out each other and were good little boys and girls. If you were outside for 61 minutes instead of 60, your neighbour could be looking through the window and saying, I'm going to call up the authorities and notify them. If you drove your car after 8 p.m. and someone knew about it, if you were in a group of more than one bubble buddy, think about all these rules that everyone just went with, agreed with on face value, grassed each other out, ratted on each other. Goes to show that most people living in this country are sheep. Sheep, programmed. And those people that aren't doing those things, guys, you don't want to talk to them. Anyone who questions everything that's happening here, or questions why you've got to be only with two people, or questions why you've cordoned off a playground and why kids can't play on a playground, or questioning why you can only be outside for an hour, or you can't go outside after 8 p.m, they're the ones who got the problem, guys, and they're the ones that are making life harder for you. So you got to come down on those people like a ton of bricks, because once you come down on them, we'll be out of this.
But the threat to individual liberty we now face has the potential to be even worse, far worse than COVID. And that is the threat posed by digital censorship. In a nutshell, the state, under the spurious guise of protecting kids from online harm, is about to impose age restrictions on internet usage, which by definition begins the process by which the government eventually, and fairly rapidly actually, has the potential ability to control every action every Australian does online. Your banking, your booking, your buying, your browsing. All of it will literally be at the fingertips of some busybody bureaucrat. Many people say, well, so what? If I'm doing nothing wrong, what have I got to hide?
Exactly.
And that's a reasonable argument. But it's also breathtakingly naive, because it implies that there is an objective definition of what is right and what is wrong.
And think about this. You'll have a pack of nerds, all right? Pack of geeks sitting in these offices that have never lived in the real world. They'll be sitting there thinking about ways and new policies to bring in. You think it's just going to be this. They'll put this is the bottom of the framework. This is the bottom of the pyramid, and they'll build up on that. Different policies, different regulations and legislations and things you're permitted to do and not to do, and new crimes they'll put in. New laws. It's just the start of it. Full control. There's nothing wrong with the internet the way it is. Yeah, there are dickheads on here. It's like every video I make, I'll get some email from someone, or I'll get comments in my videos of someone abusing me or whatever it is. Guess what? I put myself out there on the internet, so I've got to cop that. But the internet is full of keyboard warriors, but you can't stop that.
Which for many religious and common sense people, there is. but not, I hate to say it, for our politicians. As we saw during COVID, what is right and what is wrong depends entirely on your political persuasion, not on objective truth. And the police will do whatever their political masters insist is the right thing to do without any individual conscience whatsoever that I could discern. In my opinion, for it to possibly work, the E-Safety's Commissioner's under-16 internet ban will almost certainly require every single Australian to create an eternal and unerasable digital ID linking that person biometrically to every single activity they undertake in the modern online world, where you travel, what you buy, what you think. All of it will have the potential to not only be scrutinised, but to be cancelled at the push of a button by politically motivated authoritarians. Yesterday we learned of the brilliant comedic writer Graham Linehan being arrested at Heathrow Airport by 5 armed officers on suspicion of inciting violence because of 3 silly tweets criticising transgender women, i.e. biological blokes, that he put online.
I mean, yeah, we're getting all that stuff here too. I think there's some anti-hate regulations coming in because the government's worried about people criticising and talking about and challenging some of the bad decisions they're making. So who knows if those laws will apply to Sky News because mate, they're completely rampant with smashing the government. But these things are coming in. It's to shut people up. It's anti-hate laws. And they determine what hate is.
Line in America months ago. Graham, of course, wrote Father Ted, The IT Crowd, and Black Books, one of the funniest and most politically incorrect shows of the last few decades.
Oh, my God.
What?
It's Hal. Hal Granger. I was at college with him.
Well, go and say hello.
Oh, no, don't. He confuses me.
What?
He confuses me. He's a total but he's got this voice and he just does things to me.
Fran?
Fran? Of course, Graham is a popular TV writer, and his outrageous arrest at Heathrow made international headlines around the world. Here he was, fronting up to court yesterday, remaining defiant and channeling our old mate Billboard Chris, no less.
Are they going to have anti-hate laws and inciting laws for people who are on the progressive side? Some of the shit that these people put on there is absolute fanaticism. Are they going to be caught under these, or is it going to be people who challenge progressive thinking? All progressive says to me is lunatic thinking, i.e., all this transgender stuff that's gone way out of hand. Well, that's the right way, and if you say anything against it, it's inciting violence, it's inciting hate, questioning stupidity. If we would have been talking about all these sort of things, what's a man and what's a woman and what's a biological man and woman, whatever it is, that stupid argument that people are too scared to even answer now. If that was something that was asked in the 1990s or 2000s, you'd be looked at like you were completely mental, wheeled off to a mental house. Here in Australia now, it's a big thing. What's a woman? Oh, you don't think a woman is someone who's undergone chemical treatment and had surgery to transition? No, it's not. It's a dude. All right, let's go.
Do you have a few words ahead of today's appearance?
But ask yourself, do you really think, after what we witnessed during COVID, if you were arrested, say at Melbourne Airport, on some anti-vax or anti-trans or anti-climate change or anti-immigration tweet you made, you would make international headlines? Just ask Monica Smith, who...
Don't even get me started before we go into this story, okay? Don't get me started on that. You see the brainwashed population here in Australia. Like, that's what most people are brainwashed. You saw that there was this thing going around where there were people who went to the March for Australia, and then after the March for Australia, they were sitting there with the flag draped around them, eating in a Chinese restaurant. And everyone was like, these people are stupid. They go for a racial hate march, and then they go and eat Chinese food at a Chinese establishment. And people are jumping on that. And I've even had people laugh about that to me in person. Hey, did you see that story about that? Those idiots, ha ha ha. It's like, do you not understand that racial hate was not what people went and marched about? It was more or less criticising the government policies, i.e. one of the major ones being mass immigration, not existing immigrants who are here, you morons. Do you want to listen though? Racial hatred. You hate black people. You hate Indians. That was how it was. That was how it was marketed. And that's why, Jacinta Allen and all the government spokespeople jumped on straight away. It's a racist march because you don't want more mass migration. Okay. But yeah, imagine you put a tweet out about that. You probably, with these new laws and digital ID, you'll have the cops at your house. Just like in the UK, it's very bad over there.
Languished in a Victorian prison for 22 days and nights because of a Facebook post. And apart from this network, nobody in the media batted an eyelid to help her. Nigel Farage spoke to the American Congress yesterday about Britain's erosion of free speech.
We've kind of forgotten the Voltairean principles that we'll fight and defend to the death your right to say...
If you want to see where we're heading, and this is where we're going to go, this is where we're going to head, this is where society is basically the trajectory, is the UK. We're one for one. We're ending up there. Give it a couple more years. Especially to all the things happening in the streets and all of that unrest, and it's just out of hand over there. Then they have all these censorship laws and all this internet and anti-hate and all that. You can't say anything. So it's just bend over, take it with a handful of salt. No salt, sand. Handful of sand from the beach. Get a crumb sausage. No coconut oil to ease it in. And don't say anything about it, because if you do, you'll have 6 police officers knocking on your front door.
Something that we fundamentally disagree with. That is the absolute foundation, if you think about it, of free speech, of democracy, of living in freedom. It's kind of why we fought 2 world wars. I come from a land that gave us the mother of parliaments, and it doesn't give me any great joy to be sitting in America and describing the really awful authoritarian situation that we have now sunk into. The Online Safety Act was put in place by the last Conservative government. I don't doubt for a minute they're good intentions, but sometimes the road to hell is paved with those good intentions.
Nigel is completely accurate there. The UK Telegraph has published a shocking list of all the victims of Britain's Orwellian hate speech laws. It goes on and on and on. Nigel Farage then outlined exactly where those good intentions end up when the bureaucrats and the politicians start to apply these insane, draconian censorship laws to everyday citizens.
And we are now where we are. We have a couple of very famous cases. We, of course, have Lucy Connolly, who put out an intemperate tweet after the savage murder of those 3 beautiful young girls, she herself, a mother who had lost a child. It was intemperate, it was wrong, but she removed it 3.5 hours later, sentenced to 31 months in prison. And we, of course, have the extraordinary events that we understood yesterday of Graham Linehan, the comedic writer, and he put out some tweets months ago when he was in Arizona. And months later, he arrives at Heathrow Airport to be met by 5 armed police. He's not even a British citizen. He's an Irish citizen. This could happen to any American man or woman that goes to Heathrow that has said things online that the British government and British police don't like.
Nigel Farage was warning the Americans.
That's right.
About the danger.
Shut up, say nothing. All these anti-hate and inciting, all these laws trying to control that because it's for your good and we want to have a better society and a more inclusive society. It's only more inclusive and it's more safe only if you go along with the program. If you say anything outside of it, these laws will squash you. And as I said, you'll have cops on your doors. That's just absolutely ridiculous, that whole thing they were just talking about with that comedy writer. That is just ridiculous. That's what's happening here because these laws are coming. Let me know what you guys think. And once again, if you guys have made it to the end, consider subscribing, liking, sharing. There's a new hype button. On YouTube. If you can press that, apparently you should be able to see it somewhere on this page. it helps me out greatly. It's what helps get me some more engagement through on my videos. Thank you. See you in the next one.